It is so crazy how fast time can move sometimes, because it feels like this NBA season just started yesterday, but we are already at All-Star Weekend, getting ready to watch the All-Star festivities for this weekend. And we look at the Miami Heat going into the All-Star break. They're sitting at 7th in the Eastern Conference with a record of 30-25, and they could easily move up to a permanent playoff spots if they get hot and win a couple of games, which I think they will do so. And that's what we're going to break down in the video. But the Miami Heat, before going into the All-Star break, I thought they got two pivotal wins. They lost Terry Rozier to the Boston Celtics. He hurt his knee. And then Jimmy Butler, he didn't play that game, and he missed the last two games. I believe Jimmy Butler has missed the last 3 games for the Miami Heat, dealing with a death in his family. I haven't looked too much into Jimmy Butler's what happened with his family and how far and how long he's going to be out. So I'll be honest with you guys, I don't have no clue. But I do know that he missed the last 3 games, and the last 2 wins that the Miami Heat that they won, I think they were very pivotal. One was against the Milwaukee Bucks, who had Damian Lillard and who had Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Miami Heat were heavy underdogs in that game, and they came out on top. Back to back, they go to Philly. Now, they didn't have no Joel Embiid, and they didn't have Tobias Harris, but they did have Tyrese Maxey and home court advantage and the rest advantage, which made the Miami Heat underdogs once again. But they defied the odds and came out on top. And I think those were such big time wins for the Miami Heat, just given that they've been struggling a little bit lately, and then they got 2 wins against 2 playoff conference opponents without their best player. And it just made me realize something about the Miami Heat. And I've been watching basketball for a very long time, since I was a little boy. But once I started my YouTube channel in like 2020, 2021, I started paying attention to the game differently and understanding the game differently. And one thing that I've noticed about the Miami Heat since that time period after the bubble, I think they've been one team that just handles adversity really well. And if they're not the best team that handles adversity well, then I think they're one of the best. And usually the adversity I'm referring to when it comes to the game of basketball is that injury bug. And injuries can be the death of a team. Injuries could be the difference between a team winning or losing a championship, between some teams going to the playoffs or making the playoffs, and then some teams being the best team in all of the NBA. One injury can happen and then they're in the lottery. So I think injuries are very important, and they give teams a lot of adversity. And then just watching the Miami Heat this season and then the last couple of seasons before this, they handle adversity extremely well. And I'm sure all my Miami Heat fans, I'm sure they know the injury bugs that I'm referring to that this team has faced. But just in case somebody don't know, I can give you a couple examples right off the top of my head. We look to last year's playoffs. The Miami Heat, they had to do majority of that playoffs without Tyler Hero. He got injured in round 1. He came back during the NBA Finals, but it was very obvious that he was not himself. And this is a guy that can put up 20-25 points per game that they were without for majority of the playoffs. And as an 8th seed, they somehow made it all the way to the NBA Finals. We look at this season, we look at the 3 best players on this team: Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, and Jimmy Butler. The 3 of these guys have all missed at least 10 games this season. And then Tyler Hero and Jimmy Butler, these guys have missed at least 15 games on this season. So that's a lot of time without your best 3 players. And just how I talked about earlier in the video, that having your players out for these extensive amounts of time could really put you in the hole as far as the NBA standings. But somehow the Miami Heat, they stand 5 games above 500, 7th place in the Eastern Conference, with a really good chance to strike right now and move up in the standings. And we're going to be talking about what makes the Miami Heat so good and allows them to be great when they're missing some really great NBA players. All right, and I think you guys have a pretty good idea of where we're going to go at first, to where the Miami Heat can lean on when they're missing key guys. And we're going to say Eric Spoelstra, and we're going to put a slash, and we're going to say the Miami Heat's defense as well. I think they have a really great defensive-minded head coach in Erik Spoelstra, who has won championships with teams predicated on defense. We've seen them get to the NBA Finals and the conference finals with these most recent Miami Heat teams, and those teams were also predicated on defense, and it's the same thing this season. Right now, we look at the Miami Heat. They ranked 8th in the league in defensive rating, so they have a top 8 defense in the league. Coach Erik Spoelstra, he's a defensive genius with a great defensive game plan, and his team is doing a great job of implementing his game plan, and it makes it really easy when you have a defender like Bam Adebayo. And I'm a huge fan of Bam. I love watching him play. I really wish he was more aggressive on the offensive side of the ball, but looking at his defense, Bam is just outstanding, and I'm shocked that he hasn't won a Defensive Player of the Year award yet, because the impact that he has, there's not many guys in the NBA that provides that same impact at the big man position, and the big man position is one of the most important spots defensively, because that's the guy protecting the rim and protecting the paint. But the one rare feat that Bam Adebayo has that it's not many bigs today that's doing it, and let alone in NBA history. But Bam Adebayo, he's athletic enough to play in that two-man game, hedge, and then also get back and protect the rim. The only other big that I see in today's game that can do it as well as him is Anthony Davis from the Los Angeles Lakers. But Bam Adebayo, and he is 6'8", 6'9", so he is a little bit shorter, and that gives him a little bit more speed, but he just does a great job of helping out on the perimeter of that screen and then dropping back and still playing the rim. And not only that, Bam is very versatile. He can switch out on to smaller guys if he have to. He can guard wings, he can guard forwards and centers. He can do it all on the defensive side of the ball. So I think with Bam Adebayo being the anchor of this defense, and then Erik Spoelstra as the head coach and as the guy calling the shots, it's been a recipe for success for the Miami Heat. And they also implement other things to throw off the defense, like zones. They trap, they take away other teams' best player. They really mix it up on the defensive side of the ball, and it wins them a lot of ball games when they're shorthanded. So the Miami Heat play defense at a really, really high level, and I expect after the All-Star break, they're going to even turn it up another notch on the defensive side of the ball, with them being at such a dangerous spot as far as the play-in tournament, making the playoffs, and then maybe even missing the playoffs. I think they're going to take their defense, and I think they're going to start playing like it's playoff basketball. But another thing that helps the Miami Heat out when they're missing guys, and it's really crazy, like you look at the big three of Bam Adebayo, Tyler Herro, and Jimmy Butler. It's like whenever one of those guys are missing, whoever replaces them, they do the best job that they possibly can to make up for the production that they are missing for any of those three guys. And we haven't really seen Bam Adebayo. He's been extremely healthy for the Miami Heat this season, only missing 10 out of the 55 games, so he's been pretty active. But Tyler Herro, he had that nasty ankle injury at the beginning of the season, and Jimmy Butler has been in and out for the Miami Heat as well. But one guy that has really stepped up this season and has really improved his game is Duncan Robinson. He's been outstanding for the Miami Heat so far this season. And so far this season, Duncan Robinson has been extremely solid. No, scratch that. He's been really good for the Miami Heat this season. Coming off the bench, he's averaging 13 points per game. And for a guy that's shooting majority jump shots, he's been extremely efficient, 45% from the field and 41% from the three-point line. And we talked about earlier in the video how pivotal those two games going into the break were for the Miami Heat, just in terms of it helping them out in the standings, and then also building some morale and building some momentum after struggling for a little while. Those two games were extremely important, and with Jimmy Butler being out, Duncan Robinson once again elevated his level of play. Against the Milwaukee Bucks, he poured in 23 points to go along with 4 assists, and against the Philadelphia 76ers, he gets 20 points once again and also pours in 5 assists. So with Jimmy Butler being out, Duncan Robinson is helping out in that playmaking, in the playmaking aspect of things, while also still being a threat out on the perimeter. You have to love it. And this is just what I was talking about earlier in the video. Over these last couple of years, I don't think we've seen a team better than the Miami Heat at dealing dealing with this type of adversity. When they lose their best players, they know how to get the absolute best from the guys that they're pitting out on the court. So Duncan Robinson, he's been great this year. We saw him take a step in the right direction in last year's playoffs, and then this year he put the icing on the cake, and it looks like he is officially back after the shooting slump, after the long shooting slump that he went through in his career. So it's good to see him back and playing at a very, very high level for the role that he is asked to play. And another thing that helps out with the Miami Heat, when one out of the three of Jimmy Butler or Bam Adebayo or Tyler Hero, when one out of those three guys or two out of those three guys are missing, whoever is playing out of those three usually elevates their game as well. Like Bam Adebayo, he has been spectacular this season when either Jimmy Butler or Tyler Hero is not playing, scoring the basketball, playmaking, and then he's still being that dominant force on the defensive side of the ball. I'm telling you guys, I'm a really, really huge fan of Bam Adebayo, and I think he's extremely underrated, or he doesn't get talked about enough. So the Miami Heat has that going for them, and then some other guys that have just stepped up big time this season. Obviously, the rookie and a guy that's become a fan favorite, Jaime Jaquez Jr. Make sure I'm not saying Jaquez, but Jaquez Jr. But he's been spectacular this season, and he's fit like a glove with the Miami Heat. His ability to run the floor, his ability to cut, and then also the Miami Heat have been confident enough this season to run plays and run the offense through him at times because he is so good at that mid-post and low-post level. So he's been great, and he's also been refreshing to watch, just seeing some fundamental basketball, seeing some post basketball, and then just another guy making the right play at the right time and place. So Jaime has been spectacular this year. Nikola Jovic, he's shown some flashes this year. He's a player that might pan out to be pivotal for the Miami Heat down the stretch and going into the NBA playoffs. We'll see. So one thing that the Miami Heat has on their side is I feel like that they're always unpredictable, and when you add that in with their ability to lock you up on the defensive side of the ball, I see them playing great down the stretch of the season, and I don't think they will be in the play-in tournament. I think they're one of the better top 5, top 4 teams in the Eastern Conference when healthy, and I think after the All-Star break, we're going to see them turn things up a notch, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and I think that's going to win them a lot of games in the regular season. But that's going to be it for this video. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like, comment down below if you agree or disagree, and then subscribe for more weekly content. We do this all the time, man, and that's curtains.